Three separate groups of humans, one in the Amazon, one in China, one in the Ethiopian highlands, with no contact with each other, no shared language, and thousands of years between some of them, all independently arrived at the exact same discovery. Right now, that discovery adds up to over 2 billion cups of coffee a day, another 2 billion cups of tea, and the most widely used psychoactive substance on the planet. This is how that happened. Start with the plant side of the story, because it explains everything that follows. Caffeine isn't in these plants for our benefit. It evolved as a pesticide, a toxin bitter and disorienting enough to kill or drive off the insects that tried to eat the leaves and seeds. Around 60 plant species make it. None of them were making it for humans. Which makes what happened next a little strange. Humans, everywhere these plants grew, did the one thing humans reliably do with anything new. They put it in their mouths and paid attention to what happened next. And what happened next, again and again, in places that had never heard of each other, was the same thing. More awake, more focused, less tired. The oldest confirmed case of this is cacao. Cornell University researchers found theobromine, caffeine's close chemical cousin, on pottery from Puerto Escondido in Honduras, dated to around 1100 BC. Then, in 2018, a University of British Columbia team pushed that timeline back much further. Residue from ancient vessels in Ecuador's Amazon basin carried chemical traces of fermented cacao dating to roughly 3500 BC, putting deliberate human caffeine use at over 5500 years old. And the path there was almost an accident. Cacao pods hold their seeds inside a sweet pulp that ferments fast on its own. Long before anyone touched the bitter seeds, someone was almost certainly just eating the fruit around them, and noticing the fermented pulp made them feel a certain way. The seeds, it turns out, did something entirely different. Not slower, sharper. Now watch the same pattern repeat on the other side of the planet with a completely different plant. Chinese legend credits Emperor Shen Nung in 2737 BC with discovering tea when leaves from a wild Camellia sinensis tree blew into his boiling water. The legend might be embellished. The rough timeline it points to isn't. The tomb of Emperor Jing of the Han Dynasty, who died in 141 BC, confirms it. Researchers found actual preserved tea leaves buried with him. Tea wasn't a new habit by then. It was already old enough to bury with an emperor, in a country that had never once heard of the Amazon. Neither civilization had a word for what they'd found. Nobody would for thousands of years. Caffeine wasn't named until 1819, when German chemist Friedlieb Ferdinand Runge finally isolated it from coffee beans. But you don't need chemistry to notice a pattern like this one. Drink it, feel sharper. Skip it a few days, feel worse than normal. That's what dependency looks like, with or without a name for it. Which brings us to the third independent discovery, and the one most people already half know. Ethiopia, roughly the 9th century. A goat herder named Kaldi noticed his goats wouldn't sleep after eating red berries off a certain tree, moving through the night instead of resting. He tried the berries himself, felt the same restlessness, brought them to a nearby monastery, where the monks found the drink kept them alert through hours of nighttime prayer. Worth saying plainly, historians think Kaldi is folklore, not fact. The story doesn't show up in writing until the 1600s, centuries after it supposedly happened. But something like it is almost certainly true in outline, because long before coffee was ever brewed hot, Ethiopian communities were already chewing the raw berries, or packing them into fat and berry energy balls for long journeys. Brewing coffee as a hot drink was a separate invention, further north, in Yemen, after Arab traders carried the plant across the Red Sea. Sufi mystics there worked out that boiling the beans produced something that could carry them through their own nighttime devotions, the same problem the Ethiopian monks had already solved again, independently, by strangers. This is the point where caffeine stops being a local habit and becomes a global commodity. By the 1400s, the Yemeni port of Mocha controlled the entire world's coffee trade and guarded it ruthlessly. Merchants boiled or roasted beans before they ever left port, specifically so they couldn't germinate anywhere else. No seed, no competition. Coffeehouses followed the trade routes outward. Mecca by 1511, then Cairo, then Constantinople by 1555, opened by two merchants from Damascus during the reign of Suleiman the Magnificent. These weren't just places to buy a drink, they were something new entirely. Rooms where men of every class sat together for hours, talking and arguing as equals. Which is exactly why it scared people in power. Decades later, Ottoman Sultan Murad IV made selling coffee a capital offense. People kept drinking it anyway, quietly, at real risk to their lives. Because by then, the habit had already outgrown the threat. Every ban on caffeine in every century has told you the same thing. It never worked. Europe met coffee through Venetian merchants in the early 1600s, and the Catholic Church's first instinct was suspicion, calling it the bitter invention of Satan and pushing Pope Clement VIII to ban it. As the story goes, he tasted it first, liked it enough to bless it instead. The opposition folded almost overnight. From there, it moved fast. London alone had over 2,000 coffeehouses by the end of the 1600s, nicknamed penny universities. Pay a penny, sit for hours, and talk directly to merchants, politicians, and writers who'd otherwise never have given you the time of day. Two of the world's biggest financial institutions came directly out of those rooms. Edward Lloyd's coffeehouse was where ship captains and merchants traded shipping news and struck marine insurance deals. That's the direct ancestor of Lloyd's of London. Down the street, stockbrokers thrown out of the Royal Exchange for being too rowdy just kept trading from Jonathan's coffeehouse instead. That habit became the London Stock Exchange. Tea's path to power was different and heavier. China's tea culture was already thousands of years old by the time Britain got obsessed with it, and the British East India Company built an empire on that obsession. The demand grew so large, it created a trade deficit Britain couldn't close with silver alone. Their solution was opium, grown in British India and smuggled into China on a massive scale, specifically to balance the books on tea. When China tried to stop the opium, Britain went to war to protect it. The Opium Wars were fought at bottom to keep a caffeine supply chain running. Britain's tea habit didn't just shape a culture, it helped start a war. So trace the whole thread back. Someone in the Amazon 5,500 years ago ate a piece of fruit and noticed the seeds inside did something the fruit didn't. Someone in China boiled water near the wrong tree. Someone in Ethiopia watched his goats refuse to sleep. 3 unrelated moments, one identical conclusion, reached 3 separate times. And once people had that conclusion, nothing stopped it. Not distance, not centuries, not death penalties, not the Catholic Church. Caffeine didn't just make people more alert, it made them more social, more productive, more willing to sit in a room together for hours and build something. Whether that's an unambiguously good trade is a fair question to sit with. But the honest answer is that nobody was really deciding anymore, 4,000 years in. Once a substance proves it does something real to your brain, stopping isn't really a choice you're weighing fresh each morning. It's a habit that already decided for you, a long time ago, somewhere you never saw. So the next time you make your coffee or steep your tea, remember what you're actually holding. The tail end of a 5,000-year-old chain of people on 3 different continents who never met each other and all independently decided the same thing was worth the risk. 2 billion cups a day is the proof they were right.